afternoon and welcome, everyone. My name is Michelle Chaput, and I'm joining you from Canadian Geographic Education as your host for this special presentation as part of the 2024 Marine Month in Canada program. This is our second year of our partnership with the Canadian Marine Careers Foundation, where we bring you behind the scenes to learn about diverse careers within the marine sector in Canada. So far, we've met with the Canadian Coast Guard, the British Columbia Coastal Pilots, the Royal Canadian Navy, and today we'll feature the Montreal Port Authority. And then next week, we're joined by Marine Atlantic and CSL to talk about ferry services and cargo shipments. So we hope you're enjoying the program so far and that we've piqued your curiosity about the unique experiences and career possibilities that are available within the sector. As usual, I'll just remind the teachers that are joining in to check in by dropping your classroom nickname in the chat so that you can be entered into our draw for $500 for your school so that you can explore future learning about the marine sector. And for students watching, you know the drill. Hang out until the end of the presentation, and we'll have a one-on-one question and answer period with our presenter today, as well as a short Kahoot quiz to test your knowledge on some of the important aspects from today's presentation. So I'll just bring up the pin for our game today, and I'll also bring it up again at the end of the presentation. So if you have your device ready, you can log in at kahoot.it and add the pin on screen. So, without further ado, I'm pleased to introduce our special guest today, Captain Jean-François Belzile. He's the Harbour Master and Director of Marine Operations for the Port of Montreal, one of North America's busiest inland ports. Welcome, Captain Belzile. Great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
It looks like a beautiful day where you are today, nice and sunny outside.
Yeah, and luckily, my office is by the St. Lawrence River, so we have this wonderful view behind me.
Well, there you go. You beat me to the punch. Can you tell us where you're tuning in from today?
Well, from our headquarters, which is located in the western part of Montreal by the St. Lawrence River, just facing the old Port of Montreal and the downtown Montreal, actually.
So I think we have a slide actually that to bring up there. So there, we can see the location of the port on the map there. So could you tell us a little bit more about the port itself and about its mandate?
Well, the Port of Montreal is one of the 17 Canadian port authorities. Our mandate is to promote maritime trade, ensure the security of our territory, and while also protecting the environment and supporting the Canadian economy. We make sure that docks, the port roads, the rail tracks are all functional so that companies can export and import goods all over the world. The port is located, yes, in Montreal, but we also expand our activities all the way to Contrecoeur. But all of Quebec and Canada and the United States do benefit from our activities.
Well, you mentioned the world. So can you tell us a little bit more about how the port is connected to the world?
Well, the port is located in a strategic area on the St. Lawrence River, which opens to the Atlantic Ocean. We also are the gateway to the Great Lakes, the Canadian Great Lakes, but also you must know that most of the Great Lakes are binational waters, allowing trading between Canada and United States. The main source of the St. Lawrence River, which feeds the water in the Port of Montreal, is the main source then is Lake Ontario. From our strategic location then, we can reach over 140 countries that can be reached by ships. Goods can be exchanged by either containers, which will contain furniture, TV sets, and video games, but also we manage or handle liquid bulk, such as gasoline for automobiles. Dry bulk is also part of goods that transit through the Port of Montreal, like grain, which is used to make grain or flour, for instance. We also, for example, manage the transshipment of salt, road salt, which is road which is used, as the word says, for de-icing roads during winter. And we also operate a cruise terminal, which is visited by thousands of tourists every year.
Well, that's quite the list of daily operations, and thank you for sharing that, because I think it's important for young people in the audience watching to understand that there's so many different types of operations and so many different responsibilities that are associated with the port. So my next question to you then is, would you be able to share any interesting or particular facts about the port's history?
Well, it's worth noting that nowadays the Port of Montreal is open 365 days a year. Uh, in the old days, the St. Lawrence River, used to be completely covered with ice during winter, and that would prevent the commercial navigation to happening, like between the month of December to almost April. And then nothing could be shipped into Montreal or from Montreal during this time, and everybody was anxious to. Which is that? Sorry, there was a fire alarm or something. False alarm. Never mind.
As long as you're safe, you can continue.
I'm not sure where this is coming from, but anyway, stay tuned. Okay. So back then, the river was completely frozen, and that the big change then came from in 1962, when the ice breaking ships were put in activity by the Canadian Coast Guard, allowing to de-ice the St. Lawrence River, and then allowing for those ships or merchant ships to make their way right up to Montreal the year round. Um, the first, well, back in 1830, when the first ship used to reach Montreal early in the spring, we used to offer the captain chapeau de forme, what do you say?
A top hat.
A top hat. And but after a few years, that tradition evolved into offering them a golden-headed cane as a trophy. And this tradition is still going on nowadays, but obviously with the help of the icebreakers, it's happening earlier in the year. So early, normally in January, we happily offered the first captain who makes it away to Montreal the golden-headed cane. And well, that's what you see there on the picture. It's the captain of Elena G, who was awarded the golden-headed cane early in January 2024.
And do you have a list somewhere of all of those sort of captains that were awarded first throughout the years?
Yes, we have our Wall of Fame in our headquarter main meeting room, where since the beginning of this tradition, the name of the captain and the ship name is engraved into a stainless steel plate, and year after year we keep engraving those names.
That's a really nice tradition. Can you, flipping from traditions to more, I guess, modern day, can you tell us a little bit about what a typical day at the port looks like?
Every day, 6 ships on average arrive at the port, and another ships normally would be leaving from the port, either towards the Great Lakes or the sea. Actually, there are more ships transiting simply directly to the Great Lakes, but also exiting the Great Lakes. That's for the ship activities, but we also have thousands of trucks transiting the port every day, several trains, and all this action is taking place while our team in charge of coordinating all these continuous movement keeps monitoring the situation. There's also over 1,000 stevedores working at some 20 terminals spread over 26 kilometers of docks at the port. They move goods in a precise order, maneuvering cranes and other equipment. Coordinating the arrival and departure of these ships is a team effort carried out by employees of the control center of the port. This, this center has to be open at all times, so my team takes turn in so from morning and noon and all night, actually 24 hours a day, to ensure that operations are monitored throughout the year. We receive calls from ships, terminals, port employees, and we monitor the surrounding area, making sure using our cameras. We also respond to incidents by coordinating the work of first responders at the port, such as for addressing floods, fires, or other incidents.
So it takes quite a big team with many different skill sets and many different responsibilities to make sure that the port is running efficiently every day.
Indeed.
Um, can you tell us a little bit more about your particular role and perhaps what you enjoy most about your job?
Well, I'm the harbor master, so my job is to manage the marine, primarily to manage marine operations, and the team that support these activities is composed of 15 people. So my direct team is about 15 people. I also manage a small crew of sailors who perform maintenance on the water and on the docks. I make sure every day that everyone works well together, and I manage projects to increase port efficiency and operations. Our goal, or my goal, is always to improve also the management of our environmental performance, manage emergency and through our coordination center is also something very captivating, and I get involved from time to time. The most critical events can be, for example, the beginning of an ice jam or a fire.
Well, that's I feel like you're someone that is essentially on call at all times to make sure that everyone is everyone is safe and has what they need. Um, could you tell us maybe just as a follow-up question how you first got started in the industry?
I started sailing as a sailor at the age of 17 as a deckhand on fishing boats. I then worked on the merchant ships, and I moved my way to the National Marine School and started in studying to become a navigator or a ship captain. Then I worked then for many years on the merchant ships, transporting goods from port to port, like the shoes you wear and the chocolate you eat. I then eventually became navigator and ship captain. I've been working at the port since year 2000. I first managing transshipment for container ships, and I've been a captain at the port for the last 9 years.
Well, congratulations. That's a wonderful career, and it's nice to see that it started with just an initial interest in working on board a ship at the age of 17, and here you are now, harbor master.
Indeed.
Um, could you share perhaps a memorable experience or a unique aspect of your job that you've encountered over the years?
Well, managing the ship traffic in the port, in and out of the port, is a challenge. But as I mentioned, in the old days, the river was completely icing up during the winter. Nowadays, with the help of icebreakers, it allows for the ice and the water to flow freely most of the time during winter. But from time to time, exceptionally, we get ice jams on the St. Lawrence River. And those are really issues that have me really busy.
Mhm.
It does block navigation quite rapidly. And yes, things can get complicated. And then allowing or ensuring that there's an orderly reduction of navigation and eventually plan the resumption of navigation. It's quite a challenge, but an interesting challenge. And it's something that is done, yes, in collaboration with my control center staff, but also with all the actors, including the pilots, the Canadian Coast Guard, and the vessel masters.
Well, I myself have never had the pleasure of seeing an icebreaker before, but I hope to someday because it really, I mean, they're quite unique in terms of the fleet that we have here in Canada. So it's I hope to see them in action one day.
Yeah, you can see them normally stationed in Quebec City during the winter, and normally there's one also stationed in Three Rivers. On
Okay.
the Yeah, so it's a good spot to to see one.
Okay, I've got to head there in the winter then.
Well, Quebec City is always a nice place to see you in
Yes.
any time of the year, and so is Three Rivers. But the icebreakers are not always there. Normally during summer, they will be either performing maintenance or transiting or traveling in the Arctic Sea to support the what we call the Arctic Sea Lift, which is the replenishment of merchandise required for the population living in the Arctic.
Right. Yes, because they're so rural, that's the only way that they can get supplies.
Well, for the main part, yes.
So another question for you. Are there any future developments or projects planned for the port?
Yes, of course. There's always something going on at the port, and we do lots of maintenance and infrastructure work every year. But our flagship project is the Contrecoeur project. So we have this project to develop a new container terminal at the eastern limit of the Port of Montreal, so it being Contrecoeur. This project is due to open or to be completed by 2029, and it will allow for handling over 1 million containers yearly.
Wow.
On this new terminal.
And so with this new terminal opening up, I would imagine there's quite a few jobs that will open up as well. So could you maybe suggest what sort of skills would be required by future port workers?
It's very diverse. The different skills that are required for port workers. If you want to operate machinery or do the groundwork, it's one set of skills. So it's more like being good at driving machinery and operating cranes and so on and so forth. But all kinds of different professions are present in port activities, such as programmers, people involved with finance, or mariners like me.
Well, I'll have to tell my 15-year-old niece about that because she's taking a programming course right now and she's not enjoying it because she doesn't see the future applications of it. So I'll have to tell her that, programming is applicable across many different industries.
Of course.
Well, we've hit our sort of 20-minute mark here. So I'll ask you one last question before we start the question and answer period with our audience. And that is just if you have any final messages or final pieces of advice you'd like to share with young people watching.
Well, as you mentioned, I started early at 17 as a deckhand on fishing boats, and I'm here, harbor master at a significant port of Canada. So, and what I feel that allowed me making my way there is persistence. So I would encourage the student to persist in what they like and what they love, and work hard, listen to their teachers, and keep going.
Keep going. Well, that's a common sort of theme that we've heard across many of the different presentations this year in the program is to not be afraid of the unknown, and if you have an interest in exploring more, to just give it a try and see where it takes you. So thank you very much. I again just blown away by the presentation today, and the different sort of intricacies involved in managing the port and making sure that all Canadians have all those resources and all of those materials that they rely on every day. So thank you to you and your team. I'm just going to check now to see if we have any questions coming in the chat. So any teachers watching, if you want to add your questions for Captain Bezil in the chat, I can transfer them. And I'm also going to bring up our Kahoot pin again so that everyone can get set up with their devices for the game. So the first question we have here, what is a stevedore? Am I saying that right?
Yeah. What is a stevedore?
Yes, that's the question.
Okay. So the stevedores are the group that is hired to transload cargo, so merchandise. The group hires what we call longshoremen. Longshoremen are the actual people working into the stevedoring activities. So they will take off cargo from the ship in the different forms. So we talked about the dry bulk, liquid bulk, or containerized cargo. So the stevedores or longshoremen will be specialized in managing the different type of cargoes at different terminals. So that's what a stevedore is.
Okay, there we go. And second question here, just asking if you could suggest, or if there's anything for a current high school student that they could be doing if they wanted to, I guess, better position themselves to enter into the industry. So are there volunteer opportunities, or is there anything at the port in particular that they should know about?
Well, as I said, the port allows for people interested in different field of expertise. So it's not like where you have to have a very limited skill sets. It's more.
Or maybe are there classes that they should consider, like physics, math?
No, there's not that many classes, but we do like Porte Ouverte every
Yes,
year.
open house.
We do open house and allow for people to do port visits. We take them out on buses and we show them our equipment, and we allow them to meet with our people also, the different port workers in the different positions, and ask their questions, and it get a better feeling of what we do. Normally, in the past couple of years, we've been having those activities at our cruise ship terminal, which is located on the old port. And actually, you can come and visit us on the Grand Quai in the old port. And we have the sports center open to public, where you can get a little closer to our activities and get a feeling of what we do.
Oh, okay, those are wonderful opportunities. Thank you.
Yeah.
I see that we still have players joining the game, so I'm going to go ahead with another question, and that is, how far in advance do you know the schedule, like the daily schedule for the ships?
Well, we know we have regular callers that will publish like a bus schedule. We'll have the yearly schedule. We call it a pro forma, or the tentative schedule for those ships. So we have a rough 365 days a year schedule. Otherwise, no less than 24 hours before arriving in port, we get a notification. And ideally, 4 days before any ships will arrive in port, they will be requesting for us to guarantee a dock or an anchorage position for them.
All right, there you have it, folks. So I don't have any more questions in the chat, and I'm just keeping an eye on the time. So I think we're going to get started with the game. So we have 4 questions for you today. And the first question is, which of the following are included in the mandate of the Montreal Port Authority? And the answer is all of the above. So the promotion of maritime trade, supporting the economy, and protecting the environment. And we have Bright Pelican in the lead. Question number 2. Where is the Port of Montreal located? And the answer is the St. Lawrence Seaway, which you can see behind you, behind Captain Belzile. And Fabulous Echidna takes the lead. Question 3. On average, how many ships arrive at the port each day? Get your answers in. And as Captain Bezos said, there's on average 6 arriving, but lots and lots of traffic happening at all times. Fabulous Echidna stays in the lead. So last question, which of the following roles helps to ensure the port operates effectively? And again, in this case, it's all of the above. So just highlighting the diversity of experiences and opportunities available at the port. There's really something for everyone. So let's check out our podium. We've got Genius Horse in 3rd place. Fabulous Echidna in 2nd. Oh, someone booted him out of 1st place. It's Happy Iguana. Congratulations, Happy Iguana. So that wraps up our Kahoot game and our presentation with the Montreal Port Authority. So I'll just take a moment again to thank you, Captain Belzile, for joining us today and for really giving us a deeper look at what it is you do and your team's responsibilities day in and day out. I'd also like to thank our friends at Imagine Marine. So again, our sponsors, the Canadian Marine Careers Foundation, are running the Imagine Marine campaign. So if you have questions about the opportunities within the sector, if you'd like to check out the job board or learn a little bit more about the day in the life of different marine workers, you can head to the website and get that information there. And of course, we have our own CanGeo Education website where you can access the classroom activities. So if you'd like to explore some of the topics covered in the presentations in more detail, you can head here and download the activities. So that's it for us for another presentation of Marine Month, and I hope to see everyone again next week. Have a great day, Captain Belzile, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone. It was a pleasure.